Hanju could feel how strong his curse was. Ordinary sages probably didn't even have the right to deduct his lifespan. This feeling of doing whatever he wanted was too satisfying. It was as if this book could kill all enemies in the world. 10 billion years. 100 billion years. A trillion years. 100 trillion years. 1 quadrillion years. 10 quadrillion years. Hanju finally saw an email. Because of your curse, the Tao heart of your enemy, the first life Black Sovereign, was damaged. Interesting. Very tough. Hanju put down the Book of Misfortune and didn't continue cursing. It was still useful to keep the first life Black Sovereign alive. The life faction could help him attract attention. It wasn't good to kill him early. Of course, he might not be able to kill the first life Black Sovereign if he continued cursing. Hanju put away the Book of Misfortune and started the simulation trial. 49 years later, Hanju ended the simulation trial and called Tao Comprehension Sword into the Taoist temple. Tao Comprehension Sword sighed as she walked into the Taoist temple again. Everything was still the same, but her heart was no longer the same. What would have happened if she didn't go out everywhere? Tao Comprehension Sword didn't dare to think about it. Compared to the past, the greatest change was the distance between her and Hanju. In the past, she had little knowledge and didn't have so much reverence. Now that she had been in the mortal world, she developed reverence and couldn't talk to Hanju like before. Tao Comprehension Sword knelt down respectfully. Hanju said, "Have you made up your mind?" It wasn't difficult to guess Tao Comprehension Sword's intentions. She probably knew why Liao, Morongqi, and the others had disappeared. Tao Comprehension Sword looked up and said, "I'm ready. Master, please fulfill my wish." Hanju didn't say anything else. He directly destroyed her body and placed her soul into the primordial world. Before Tao Comprehension Sword could react, she discovered that her surroundings had changed. Her body was gone. What's going on? Why does Master want to kill me? The source of this content NOVL by and Tao Comprehension Sword was filled with despair and disbelief. She listened to the Black Hell Chicken and prepared to offer herself, but she actually angered Hanju. Forget it. So be it if she died. Anyway, her life was given to her by him. Hanju didn't know what Tao Comprehension Sword was thinking. He chose one of the Fiend's celestial chi and helped her fuse with it. Then, he came to the second Tao field and let Yangdu out. Yangdu landed in front of the Taoist temple as if a lifetime had passed. He was already an acquaintance of the second Tao field, so Hanju didn't inform Morongqi to fetch him. Yangdu was very excited. He turned around and bowed to the Taoist temple before leaving with Morongqi. No wonder Hanju chose Morongqi to be the leader of the Fiend Celestial Army. His bearing was indeed impressive. Hanju didn't leave the second Tao field immediately but looked at the Earth Immortal world. He suddenly discovered that Rengang and Yin Hongchen were no longer in the Earth Immortal world or even the Heavenly Tao. He counted with his fingers. The two of them had followed the reincarnation space into the chaos tens of thousands of years ago and had never returned. "What are you looking at?" Liao asked curiously. Hanju came back to his senses and smiled. "Nothing." Liao suddenly pressed his hand down and said softly, "Don't be in a hurry to leave." Hanju asked, "What is it?" Liao blushed. "I need your help to increase my cultivation." Hanju remained silent. Seeing that he did not object, Liao immediately started taking action. The Taoist temple was immersed in love. Unless one was the Great Tao Supreme, they could not be spied on. Time passed. Another 100 years passed. Hanju slowly opened his eyes. After messing with Li Yao for 20 years, he returned to continue cultivating. 10,000 years had passed, but his cultivation level had not increased much, making him quite regretful. The cultivation difficulty increased again after he had reached the mid-stage Great Tao Primordial Chaos Realm. Hanju took out the heaven-opening axe. It had been successfully upgraded. A terrifying killing intent erupted, fluttering Hanju's long hair. It shocked him so much that he immediately suppressed this killing intent, afraid that he would accidentally injure the hidden sect disciples. So powerful! In his opinion, the previous heaven-opening axe was not even a chaotic supreme treasure. It was just hard and heavy enough. The current heaven-opening axe made him, a great Tao sage, feel heavy. The killing intent it contained was extremely shocking. Even without using the primordial divine rage, he was confident that he could kill Hatred Concubine with just a swing of this. Hanju checked the heaven-opening axe's information. Heaven-opening axe, ultimate Tao treasure, one of the birth dharma treasures of the chaotic fiend celestial Pango. Number 1 killing weapon. It has the power to devour the providence of the chaotic fiend celestials and can split the world. Ultimate Tao treasure. Number 1 killing weapon. How arrogant! Hanju put away the heaven-opening axe and entered the simulation trial. He wanted to test its power right away. In the dark forbidden zone, the light formed by the chaotic heavenly road split the darkness into two. High above, a majestic palace floated. In the hall, Pan Xian was meditating. Usually, when he had nothing to do, he liked to cultivate in the chaos and protect the chaotic heavenly road. He suddenly opened his eyes and took out the heaven-opening axe. The heaven-opening axe in his hand petrified at a speed visible to the naked eye, causing cracks to appear. Shocked, Pan Xian hurriedly used his dermic powers to repair it, but to no avail. Boom! The heaven-opening axe turned to dust and dissipated in front of him. How can this be? Pan Xian was dumbfounded. This was a supreme treasure passed down to him by giant god Pango. Back then, he had relied on this treasure and the chaotic green lotus to kill his way in and out of a group of great Tao sages. He had been as impressive as he could be. How could such a supreme treasure turn to dust? Pan Xian pinched his fingers to deduce. He couldn't deduce where the heaven-opening axe was or why it was shattered. Pan Xian was depressed. His Tao heart also cracked. At this moment, Emperor Zhao's voice came from outside the Taoist temple. Fellow Taoist Pan, recently, a force has appeared near the chaotic heavenly road. Pan Xian suddenly stood up. His terrifying aura directly shattered his Tao field. Wisps of flames wrapped around his body. Outside the hall, Emperor Shao was shocked and subconsciously retreated. Seeing the murderous Pan Xian, he became even more nervous. He suddenly recalled the scene when Pan Xian killed his way back to the heavenly Tao. Had this fellow gone mad? Very good. Life, right? I'll go meet them now. Pan Xian shouted in a low voice. His voice was like thunder. With that said, he disappeared, leaving Emperor Shao bewildered. Damn it! How satisfying! With the primordial divine rage and the ultimate Tao treasure, the heaven-opening axe, he was simply unstoppable. Hanju challenged everyone in the simulation trial alone. Even the powerful foolish sword sage could not withstand a single blow from him. Especially when he fused with the power of 849 fiend celestials and used the heaven-opening axe to execute the primordial divine rage, he was simply invincible. Hanju was arrogant now. He even felt that he could fight against a great Tao Supreme. No! He had to calm down. If this continued, his Tao heart would be unstable. Hanju entered the simulation trial again and challenged 100 foolish sword sages alone. An hour later, he opened his eyes. This time, he calmed down. In his opinion, true invincibility in the same realm was that no matter how many enemies came, he could easily kill them. The number of enemies was not the factor that affected invincibility. He wouldn't be invincible if he couldn't defeat all enemies at the same level. Hanju started to check his emails to divert his attention. Your disciple Dao Sovereign was attacked by a mysterious Dao Devil, X8900002324. Your disciple Zhao Xianyuan was attacked by a mysterious Dao Devil, X6983108283. Your good friend Jiang Yi was attacked by a mysterious Dao Devil, X6990432221. Your enemy, the Cursed Fiend Celestial, was attacked by your good friend Divine Lord Peacock and was severely injured. Your son Han Tuo was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure and was severely injured. Your grand disciple Chu Shuren established the great Tao of Creation Buddha and obtained the primordial chaos Tao fruit. His providence has increased greatly. Your good friend Divine Robe Taoist was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure. Your disciple Yang Tiandong received a lecture from your disciple Su Qi. His cultivation has increased greatly. He calmed down after seeing the emails. The three useless things had been beaten for hundreds of thousands of years. Most importantly, they had yet to successfully attain the Tao. It was unknown what they wanted. Chu Shuren even overtook them and became a sage. However, how could he create a great Tao? It was the great Tao of Buddha. Could Jie not sense it? Or was Jie not the great Tao of Buddha? Hanju was interested in Chu Shuren. He was the first existence in his sect to create a great Tao. He was really impressive. Will my disciples have the highest achievements in the future? Hanju thought silently. When he thought of how Chu Shuren had attained the great Tao and was persuading people to give up cultivating. If this kid was invincible, even his grandmaster might be persuaded to give up cultivating. Hanju was terrified just thinking about it. No! He couldn't let Chu Shuren catch up. There was something wrong with this kid's mind. He continued reading the emails. It became more and more exciting. The Heavenly Court seemed to have been very active recently. Even Zhoufan was fighting everywhere. Coincidentally, Hanju was resting and reading the emails, so he jumped to the 33rd heaven and entered the Universal Hall. He entered directly. The Tao field array formation was useless in front of him. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du was already used to his rudeness and did not feel that it was inappropriate. Soon, the other sages arrived. South Extreme Heavenly Venerate, Sect Master Tianju, Heavenly Venerate Wufa, Chou Shilai, Fang Liang, Huang Zuntian, Jin Shen, Su Dudao, Su Qi, Li Taigu, Primordial Chaos Buddha, Zhang Guxing, and Long Hao. Long Hao was very excited to see Hanju and immediately knelt down. Primordial Chaos Buddha was very restrained. He was still a spy and could not let Xiushilai notice anything. Zhang Guxing felt as if a lifetime had passed when he saw Hanju. He already knew why he could attain the Tao. Indeed, the Divine Palace had developed extremely well and was very attractive to geniuses. It could be considered one of the top 10 existences in the immortal world. Before attaining the Tao, he was also at the top of the Heavenly Tao Providence Board, but the sage position was not so easy to obtain. How many pseudo-sages were watching? Heavenly Venerate Wufa told him directly that he chose him because he valued the karma between him and Hanju. The future Heavenly Tao would be the Heavenly Tao with the surname Han. Heavenly Venerate Wufa needed Zhang Guxing to join forces with him and climb up under Hanju, fighting for more power and Hanju's trust. There would be power struggles even in the Grand Unification. This was vividly displayed in the Mortal Empire. Hanju asked Long how to stand up and nodded at Zhang Guxing as a greeting. As for the primordial chaos Buddha, he pretended not to know him. Primordial chaos Buddha immediately understood. Master wants me to continue pretending. After the sages sat down, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du's expression turned solemn as he said, "The divine robed Taoist isn't dead. He has reappeared. Not long ago, he defeated the great Tao divine spirit who wanted to occupy his territory. This battle has already alarmed the chaos." Hearing this, all the sages looked at Hanju. He said indifferently, "Don't worry. The divine robed Taoist won't attack the heavenly Tao again." The sages heaved a sigh of relief. Heavenly Venerate Wufa smiled. "I wouldn't dare either if I were him." Qiu Shilai, Sect Master Tianju, and Fang Liang understood the truth and nodded. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du's expression softened. Li Taigu suddenly asked, "Senior Han, can't great Tao sages be killed?" He asked the question that the other sages wanted to ask. The great Tao realm was too mysterious to them. There were no legends even in the heavenly Tao. Hanju said, "The great Tao sages are indeed considered undying and indestructible. They can't be killed unless your dermic powers surpass theirs. However, are there any realms above the great Tao realm?" The sages subconsciously shook their heads. They couldn't imagine how he was stronger than the great Tao sage. The other sages nodded in agreement. This matter was quickly settled without any obstruction. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du continued, "Recently, a human emperor has appeared in the heavenly Tao. He wants to use the power of humans to unite the heavenly Tao. It seems to be harming the heavenly Tao's peace. What do you think?" Fang Yang frowned. "If we directly suppress them, I'm afraid someone in the human race will use this matter to incite trouble." Primordial Chaos Buddha said, "Lure the Buddhist sect into the human race and teach them with Buddhist principles." Qiu Shilai glanced at him. This junior was good. He knew how to take advantage of the situation. Hanju didn't care. That human emperor couldn't represent the entire human race. The human race was a heavenly Tao race, but the human emperor was not the protagonist of the heavenly Tao. Hundreds of thousands of years of peace had made mortals forget their reverence. This was understandable. Hanju was bored. After knowing that there was nothing serious, he stood up and left. The sages did not stop him and heaved a sigh of relief. With Hanju around, they would always be worried about his position. Hanju stood up and left, indicating that he didn't care about this at all. Thinking about it, it made sense. What was Hanju's identity? After he left, Jin Shin said directly, "He went against the heavenly Tao and wants to disturb peace. Kill him directly and change the human emperor." Li Taigu said, "I suggest we supervise the human emperor temple. After all, the human race is a heavenly Tao race. Without the support of the human emperor temple, how can the human race dare to be so rampant?" Fang Liang said, "The human race currently lacks standards. The human emperor chose someone with a powerful cultivation level and not a sage. I know a human genius who has the power to conquer the world and also has very good potential." The sages might have turned a blind eye if it was before the previous calamity. However, the heavenly Tao wanted to develop and explore the chaos. If the interior fell into chaos, it would definitely cause the cultivators exploring the chaos to be in confusion. Buzhou Divine Mountain. Han Yu sat under an old tree. The scenery at the top of Buzhou Divine Mountain was very beautiful. Looking along the cliff, the continuous ridge emerged from the clouds like the spine of a dragon. It was vast and majestic. Han Yu, who was cultivating under the tree, did not move. His white clothes were spotless and he looked peaceful. At this moment, a figure appeared in front of him. It was Long Hao. He was not the main body, but a phantom. Han Yu opened his eyes and looked at him. "What is it?" Long Hao smiled. You're really cold. Can't I visit you for no reason? I'm a sage now. Aren't you going to bow? Hanyu rolled his eyes and ignored him. Long Hao didn't dare to be angry when he saw his face, so he naturally did not mind. He smiled and said, now that you are the great ancestor of the human race, are you willing to stand up and lead them? Hanyu frowned. Did the current human emperor cause trouble? Clearly, he had heard of the human race. Long Hao said, in the human race ceremony hundreds of years ago, the human emperor declared that humans are above sages and that the race should unite the heavens. Don't you think this is dangerous? It would be fine if a mortal had said that. There were many arrogant people in the world, but as the human emperor, that was not appropriate. Hanyu frowned even more and shook his head. Forget it. I have no intention of entering the world. Find someone else. He paused and continued, thank you. Long Hao had already attained the Tao, but he still cared about him. He was touched. There were many experts and geniuses in the dragon race. Long Hao was not invincible. Long Hao looked at Hanyu deeply and said, you're not bad. Perhaps in the future, you will surpass the imagination of the world. With that, he vanished. Hanyu was confused and did not understand what he meant. Since he couldn't figure it out, he stopped thinking about it. Hanyu closed his eyes and continued cultivating. He had already let go of his emotions and desires, let go of the mortal world. He only wanted to cultivate quietly and alone in the long years. It wasn't a bad thing to enjoy loneliness. Another 10,000 years passed. Hanju opened his eyes and looked at the immortal world. The human race was still around. Under the schemes of the sages, a new human emperor overthrew the previous human emperor thousands of years ago. Now, he led the human race to develop in peace. Peace returned to the immortal world. This matter had already been forgotten by all the living beings in the heavenly Tao. Something new would happen every year. Who would remember what happened in the past? The current heavenly Tao was still in the era of geniuses. Most of the people recorded in the history books were geniuses. Geniuses had a new standard. Other than potential, they also had to have heavenly Tao merit. Heavenly Tao merit was needed to contribute to all living beings and the heavenly Tao. Hanju's gaze landed on the reroll world. Because of him, the reroll world had been well taken care of. It had always been second only to the loose heaven realm in all these years in the heavens. The loose heaven realm also took good care of the reroll world. After all, it was not a secret that Great Loose Heaven had joined the hidden sect. With the huge providence of the reroll world, the white-robed Buddha was already a pseudo-sage, but he had always been an early-stage pseudo-sage. It was very difficult for him to increase his cultivation. After observing the heavenly Tao, Hanju started to check his emails. Your good friend Di Jiang was attacked by your son Han Tua. Your disciple Zhou Fan was attacked by your good friend Empress Hutu. Your good friend Evil Heavenly Emperor was attacked by your good friend Zhu Juyin. Your good friend Pen Xian was attacked by a mighty figure and was severely injured. Your grand disciple Chu Shuren established the Buddhist world and his cultivation increased greatly. Your good friend Li Daokong has received guidance from your good friend ancestor Shitian. His cultivation has increased greatly. The Heavenly Court and the Great Tao Tower were fighting with the 12 ancestral magi. Hanju noticed that no one on both sides had died. It seemed that it was not to the point of no return. He couldn't be bothered to mediate. If something happened, the unlucky ones would be the 12 ancestral magi. Not all good friends were true friends. This is my son's mystical power. Hanju noticed Li Daokong and ancestor Shitian next. The two of them had established a relationship in the life faction. Why wasn't Shi Dao helped by ancestor Shitian? Thinking of Shi Dao, Hanju suddenly felt that he had neglected him. After reading the emails, Hanju sent a dream to Sherdudao in the image of the Dark Forbidden Lord. The dream was a dark starry sky. The two of them stood beside a sun. Sherdudao opened his eyes and was pleasantly surprised to see a mysterious figure that was as black as a shadow. "Greetings, Dark Forbidden Lord." Sherdudao immediately knelt down on one knee and cupped his fists. Hanju said, "It's been hard on you all these years." Sherdudao suppressed his excitement and said, "No, I have to thank you." Hanju said, "It looks dangerous, but it might also be an opportunity. Use it well. I'll make a move when it's time. If I don't appear, it means that the time isn't right." Sherdudao nodded. He understood what he meant. Just as he had guessed, life was created by the Dark Forbidden Lord. All of this was just a facade. Thinking of this, Sherdudao respected the Dark Forbidden Lord even more. The fact that the Dark Forbidden Lord could visit him in his dreams and tell him the truth meant that he trusted him. He would do anything for the Dark Forbidden Lord. Hanju sighed after the dream ended. Sherdudao is not bad. I can focus on nurturing him in the future. He has patience and determination. His future is limitless. He would observe for hundreds of thousands of years first. Currently, life was still fearless. It seemed that no force could restrain them. The great Tao divine spirits did not move, either. Hanju came to the second Tao field and released Tao Comprehension Sword. Their appearance alerted Liao. Liao opened her eyes and saw Tao Comprehension Sword. She immediately looked happy. Tao Comprehension Sword slowly opened her eyes. Seeing Hanju and Liao, she couldn't help but be in a daze. During the fusion process, Hanju was busy cultivating and ignored her, causing her to be in a deep sleep. Because it was too painful, she could only numb herself with sleep. She was not dead? She had been reborn? They had known each other for hundreds of thousands of years and had established the Holy Mother sect together. Their relationship was naturally good. Tao Comprehension Sword's beautiful face instantly turned red. Hanju added, "Stay here from now on." With that, he returned to the main Tao field. Once he left, Tao Comprehension Sword heaved a sigh of relief and regained her nature. She looked at Liao and asked curiously, "How can Master transform people into chaotic fiend celestials?" Chaotic fiend celestials are the top potential in the legends of the chaos. How many secrets was Master hiding? She covered the second Tao field with her divine sense and felt powerful auras that were not inferior to hers. This power was much stronger than the hidden sect. After releasing Tao Comprehension Sword, Hanju entered cultivation again. Cultivation was endless. In the eyes of sages, time was nothing. Longevity was sometimes boring. Year after year passed. Tens of thousands of years later. Detected that you are 700,000 years old and your life has taken another step forward. You have the following choices. 1. Exit seclusion immediately and spread the name of the primordial fiend celestial, stirring up the great Tao immeasurable calamity. You can obtain a great Tao fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a heavenly Tao spirit stone. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner and stay away from trouble. You can obtain a great Tao fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a supreme treasure. It was the same as the 600,000 years old option. Hanju directly chose the second option. Congratulations on obtaining the chaotic supreme treasure 3000 Heavenly Dragon Ribbon. 3000 Heavenly Dragon Ribbon, defensive chaotic supreme treasure. It is formed by the providence of 3000 chaotic heavenly dragons. It contains extremely strong defense and can block great Tao attacks. It can isolate the damage of karma and negative karma. Great! Another defensive supreme treasure. With 4 defensive supreme treasures, even a great Tao supreme could not insta-kill him. Right! Hanju asked in his mind. 500 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Yes, you can't be insta-killed. The corners of Hanju's mouth curled up. Then, he took out the 3000 heavenly dragon ribbon and started refining it. The refinement was successful after 80 years. The 3000 dragons automatically wrapped around Hanju. They followed his waist and wrapped around his arms. The two ends landed behind him. Golden light burst out and dragon shadows appeared behind him. The dragons twisted and their divine might was vast. Hanju immediately entered the simulation trial and challenged the foolish sword sage. He stood still and let the foolish sword sage hit him. The foolish sword sage still couldn't break through his defense even after an hour. Hanju took out the heaven-opening axe and insta-killed him. Boring. Hanju opened his eyes and sighed. None of them could fight. Then, he fused the creation spirit stone with the scarlet clear fiend celestial. In a vast hall, the evil heavenly emperor stood in front of a huge cauldron. Han Tua sat in the boiling medicine inside the cauldron. He was frowning and his expression was ugly. The evil heavenly emperor's eyes were filled with worry. At this moment, the great Tao concealment Fian Celestial's voice sounded, "Don't worry. I've already removed the spatial power in his body." The evil heavenly emperor grumbled, "I've already said that we're not Dizhang's match, let alone the other ancestral magi. Especially that time ancestral magus, Zhu Jiuyin, who's invincible in the freedom realm." The great Tao concealment fiend celestial was silent. After a long while, he said faintly, "I didn't expect Dijiang to be so powerful. It seems that Panga's Providence is protecting them." The evil heavenly emperor snorted. "Then, do you still want us to continue fighting the 12 ancestral magi? My heavenly court will be destroyed if we continue." The evil heavenly emperor immediately smiled. "Thank you for your understanding, senior." The great Tao concealment fiend celestial did not appear. It was unknown what his expression was. After a while, the great Tao concealment fiend celestial suddenly asked, "How has Hanju been recently? Why isn't there any movement from him?" The current heavenly Tao had already established itself in the chaos. Its development was very ferocious and would surpass the deity realm of the ruins of En sooner or later. He's most likely cultivating in seclusion. I know him too well. The evil heavenly emperor smiled. The great Tao concealment fiend celestial asked curiously, "Why is he cultivating so hard? He doesn't seem to have any goals." The evil heavenly emperor said, "Cultivation is the goal." The evil heavenly emperor frowned. "What do you want? Don't think about using any opportunities to attract his help. He's most afraid of trouble." The great Tao concealment fiend celestial said helplessly, "Why do you keep speaking up for him? I treat you well. Why don't you think about me? We're like father and son. Why fuss about this?" Silence returned to the hall. The evil heavenly emperor's gaze landed on Han Tua again. In the darkness, a coffin moved quickly. A figure sat on the coffin. It was Huang Zuantian. Huang Zuantian looked ahead and asked softly, "Where are we going?" A voice came from his body, low and hoarse, ancient, desolate. "Why? Help us activate the primordial chaos tablet. It is the supreme treasure born at the beginning of the chaos. It is not inferior to Pango's heaven-opening axe. With it, you will truly rise." Huang Zuantian raised his eyebrows. He was naturally familiar with the heaven-opening axe. That was a supreme treasure that Pan Xian was most proud of. Back then, Pan Xian had relied on the heaven-opening axe to break through the deity realm of the ruins of End. Even now, his achievements were still very terrifying. Huang Zuantian asked, "Isn't the ancient desolate dangerous?" Primordial Origin replied, I've calculated. The ancient desolate is relatively safe during this period of time. Those terrifying existences have already left. After arriving there, look away when you see tombstones and mirages. Don't provoke them. Huang Zuantian asked, what is the strongest existence in the ancient desolate? Primordial origin was silent. Huang Zuantian waited for a moment and asked again, why aren't you saying anything? I can't say his name and break the taboo. Kid, remember, the chaos is not as simple as you think. All living beings are in the illusion. There are some things that you can't ask or remember. Primordial Origin's tone was filled with emotions as if he had fallen into endless memories. Huang Zuantian was even more curious, but he did not ask, afraid that it would cause trouble. The longer he spent with Primordial Origin, the more curious he became about the chaos. How was such a vast chaos born? What was before the chaos? Was the Great Tao realm really the end of cultivation? I can't escape the chaos by cultivating? Huang Zuantian felt that many secrets were worth exploring other than pursuing strength in the path of cultivation. Time passed. 80,000 years passed. He cultivated for 80,000 years without anyone disturbing him. This time, when he woke up and looked back, his cultivation level had increased greatly. Hanju suddenly had a bold thought. He wanted to enter seclusion and break through in one go. However, this was not good. If too much time passed, the heavenly Tao would probably change drastically and even escape his control. Perhaps he could rely on his absolute strength to suppress it again, but it would still be troublesome. Hanju first came to the second Tao field and released Scarlet Clear Fiend Celestial to let Moronchi receive him. After the two Fiend Celestials left, Hanju looked at Liao and Tao Comprehension Sword. The two women meditated side by side. They had their own styles and were devastatingly beautiful. Hanju paid attention to their cultivation. The Great Tao he had fused with Tao Comprehension Sword was the Great Tao of Sword. He could already feel a sword chi nurturing in her. This sword chi was very strong. Although it had yet to attain the Tao, it was already not inferior to a sage who had just attained the Tao. While Hanju was sizing them up, they were also looking at him. Wearing 4 chaotic supreme treasures, Hanju's temperament stunned them. They had never seen such a handsome person. Even though he was already the person they were most familiar with, his bearing still fascinated them. Liao said, "Don't go yet." Hanju asked, "What is it?" Liao glanced at Tao Comprehension Sword and said, "We have questions about cultivation that we want to ask you." Hanju nodded and sat down. The three of them began to discuss the Tao. 50 years passed quickly. Hanju returned to the main Tao field and smiled. These two girls are not bad. They didn't disappoint me. Hanju began to look forward to Liao and Tao Comprehension Sword's future. Then, he began to check his emails. After 80,000 years, the number of emails had already reached a terrifying number. However, as a great Tao sage, Hanju easily read all of them. Recently, Chu Shuren had been quite active. After this fellow attained the Tao, his cultivation level increased very quickly and he had already reached the mid-stage primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal realm. Hanju decided to visit Chu Shuren in his dreams. The dream was under the Fusong tree, filled with nostalgia. Chu Shuren opened his eyes and was indeed stunned by what he saw. To Hanju, his departure might have been a few days ago, but to him, the experiences contained in hundreds of thousands of years were endless. Seeing Hanju, Chi Shuren immediately woke up and knelt down. He wore the Time Tao robe and the Grand Primordium Divine Crown on his head, the chaotic diamond bracelet in his hand, and the 3,000 heavenly dragon ribbon wrapped around his body. Hanju's image and temperament had reached the extreme. The 3,000 dragon shadows swayed behind him, causing Chu Shuren to be filled with reverence. No wonder he could kill a great Tao divine spirit. This temperament was even more powerful than the great Tao divine spirit in Chu Shuren's imagination. Hanju smiled and asked, "Not bad. You actually created your own great Tao and even created a world. You're indeed my most highly regarded disciple." Hearing this, Chu Shuren immediately became excited. Usually, he was extremely calm when facing anyone. Only when facing Hanju would he always be like a junior. "It's all thanks to Grandmaster that I can be where I am today," said Chu Shuren, suppressing his surprise. Hanju had said this to him before. He was not touched for long. After calming down, he felt that Hanju was coaxing him. From the looks of it, all of this was within Hanju's expectations. He had heard that a great Tao sage could see through one's future and fate. Chu Shuren nodded. Then, he felt an irresistible force lifting him up. He began to talk about his experience creating the Buddhist world. He spoke for several hours. The development of the Buddhist world was not bad. It was not purely an independent world. It was more like a sect that established connections with many worlds. The Buddhist world's disciples were all cultivators who wandered in the chaos. After learning the Buddhist Dharma, they began to wander the chaos and expiate the suffering of living beings. Chu Shuren spoke very proudly. He felt that his Buddhist world was more Buddhist-like than the heavenly Tao Buddhist sect. A true Buddha should cultivate to save all living beings from suffering, not fight for power. Hanju smiled. "Not bad. I'm very satisfied that you didn't forget your original intention. However, the chaos is still the chaos. Sometimes, don't trust others too much. If you encounter trouble, remember to contact the hidden sect. Although you created your own Buddhist world, you didn't leave the hidden sect, right?" Chu Shuren was shocked. Grand disciple will always be a disciple of the hidden sect. Hanju smiled and nodded. Then, he began to preach in his dream. It just so happened that Chu Shuren was in seclusion and did not need to end the dream immediately. 10 years later, Hanju opened his eyes. He suddenly felt that Chu Shuren might really have the best potential. He discovered that after Chu Shuren listened to the Tao seriously, his understanding of the great Tao of extreme origin was very deep. If there was a path of cultivation for the great Tao of extreme origin, Chu Shuren would already be ahead of many disciples. There was no lack of people whose cultivation level surpassed his. For example, Zhou Fan's understanding of the great Tao of extreme origin was inferior to Chu Shuren's. Most importantly, Chu Shuren had a kind heart. Hanju smiled and stopped thinking about it. He was about to cultivate when he suddenly felt something and looked up at the chaotic heavenly road. "Great Tao Sage,"